This is Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, with Whitney Ann Jenkins. Hello, I am Whitney Ann Jenkins, and I am the host of this brand new podcast, Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, Episode 0. Episode 0 is kind of exciting because it has so much potential. It can really go anywhere from here. And so you clicked on this title, so I imagine you must have some of the same curiosities and questions about this life that I do. Like, what is an authentic voice? An inner voice? An intuitive voice? A creative voice? And where does it come from? And how do you find it and recognize it? And once you find it, can it get lost? And if so, how do you get it back? Does it keep you awake at night? Does it light you up? Is it loud? Is it still and quiet? Has it caused you pain? Has it brought you sweet successes? Is it so prominent, but you feel that you have to ignore it because if you listen to it, it will change your whole world and therefore change the worlds of others? What inspires it? So this podcast is going to be conversations with people about their inner voice and how they've navigated the world in staying true to themselves and the challenges and the rewards that have come from doing so. So a little bit about me and why I'm here. From a very young age, I was incredibly quiet. I didn't talk very much at all, and people would make fun of me for it. They would try to coax me out of my shell, which just made me want to retreat further and withdraw further within myself. And it was also frustrating to me because even though I might have been quiet on the outside, the voice inside of me was very strong and fierce and certain. The parameters around me growing up were very well defined. I grew up in a small town in West Virginia. I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, and though many parts of my childhood were very lovely, things were very structured and laid out for me. And so I kind of went along with things, but I didn't necessarily agree with everything, and I definitely had questions. And so navigating the world as little me, I recognized early on that maybe this voice that I had inside of myself wasn't something I should let out very often because it didn't seem to fit very well in the environment that I was in, this world that I was plopped into that seemed so very foreign to me at times. And so I learned to hide my light. I would play outside with my neighbors, and they would want to play house and talk about our future weddings and come up with names for our kids that we would have one day. And that felt so boring to me. I would much rather watch movies and memorize them and then act them out in my backyard. I would dissect them and analyze every action that the characters were making because I was trying to understand why they were reacting to things the way they did and where their emotions were coming from. What was driving them, because I was trying so hard to understand what it was that was driving me. And so I followed this drive throughout my life, this voice that I had within me, sometimes successfully, sometimes not so successfully. And I don't want this entire intro podcast to be about myself and my personal experiences and struggles and challenges and victories with my inner self, because I feel through the conversations of the guests that come on and speak with us that I can reveal, things about myself that way that can maybe contribute to the conversations and the wisdom within that. But I've followed my creativity, my creative voice through my entire life. Currently, I'm a creative. I'm a singer-songwriter, a musician, an actress, a writer. And currently, a lot of my work that I do is from voiceover work and in doing so, narrating audiobooks. And in the past year, I've narrated probably a little over 100 audiobooks. And so I've encountered a lot of stories. And I've observed that no matter how many times the themes in the stories are repeated or similar, and no matter how well written or not so well written they are, every time there's been at least one golden nugget that I really needed to hear in that moment. And it was like wisdom that I was able to take with me. And so it's become very clear to me that everyone has a story that's valid. But what is it that really makes a story engaging or inspiring or interesting? And I kept coming back to the authentic voice. So, like I said, I followed this voice throughout my life, even though I learned to hide it. Sometimes it would still shine through, and sometimes it would burst through. There were moments that I wanted to ignore it and I couldn't, and there were moments that I've celebrated it, and moments that I completely abandoned it and wanted nothing to do with it, which led to physical illness and a week-long hospital stay where they ran a ton of tests and MRIs and spinal taps because I was so weak that I couldn't walk and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I had tried so hard to fulfill the expectations of others and what society had prescribed for me that I forced myself to fit inside of a box that I did not fit in. And in doing so, I lost myself. I lost my voice. And that was a big turning point for me. So over the past several years, I've really learned how to anchor my voice so that it's steady, no matter how hard the wind blows, and really learn how to honor it. And I think that this conversation of staying true to your own voice is really going to be important in the coming weeks and months and years as we navigate through the changes and transformations that this world, and especially this country, is going through. Because we live in a world where it's so easy to lose your voice and not recognize that we have one at all because we are constantly being manipulated and lied to. There are so many lies, lies over top of lies that go around and wrap around all the way to the other side so that they are overlapping and you don't know where they start and where they begin. And so if you have no center or groundedness inside of yourself, in your own truth, no compass, then you're going to get swept away. We are constantly being manipulated, and we know it. We are being fed so much information, constantly being fed information about what to react to and when to react to it. And we have no boundaries about when this information is getting to us. We're sleeping with our devices. We're even now meditating with our devices. And don't pretend that you don't take your device to take a poop. I see you. And so we're accepting this infiltration into our lives. And we're not just accepting it, we are embracing it. We're jumping into the pool to see how we can take advantage of it for ourselves instead of trying to change it for the better. We're selling marketing courses to each other to try to manipulate others so that they can then manipulate their audience. Just in doing research on how to release this podcast, I came across a number of webinars claiming to be live when it was so obvious that there was nothing live about them. So why not just be honest about that instead of trying to manipulate things to appear authentic? And this carries over into our own personal lives also. Not only are we interrupting our most intimate moments of our lives to share with others, but we are filtering them and staging them so that they seem authentic, when there's really nothing genuine or authentic about it. And this is so dangerous, especially for the youth, because they're trying to live up to expectations that are impossible to live up to. So I also volunteer as a crisis counselor, and I've noticed over the past couple of months that there's an increase in people reaching out because they're lost and confused and depressed because they don't understand the purpose of their lives. They don't know the purpose or understand the purpose of their lives because they don't know how to filter out the noise in order to even be able to recognize that they have one, their own voice. It takes a lot of courage to look inside of ourselves and sit with our nakedness in our truth. I think we can learn a lot from each other through these conversations and root for each other as we all try to navigate in these times without losing ourselves in the process. Because we all need everyone to align and find their own voices. That's the only way that we're going to get through this. I'm really glad to have you on this journey with me. Welcome. And stay tuned in to you.